Moon Cosmos. Today we're going to be talking about the Aries full moon coming up this Thursday on October 17th, 2024. This is going to be, I've been looking at this moon and kind of predicting that this will be one of the more um, intense, I guess, for lack of a better word, moons of the entire year, which we'll talk about why, having to do with this grand cardinal cross, kind of a loose grand cardinal cross, but happening during this moon, and also the fact that it's conjunct uh, uh, Chiron in Aries, which has been going on this journey in Aries for several years now. So definitely looking at this moon to be quite felt, quite powerful. It's also a super moon. We're having our king tides right now, so you know that the intensity can definitely be felt during this moon. Let's talk a little bit about what a full moon is, the full moon illumination moment, why these full moons can be so impactful in our lives, why they can be so felt. The moon is going on this journey throughout the month, and it's hidden most of the time. Things are hidden from us as far as the full picture and the full view of the moon. But when we have this illumination, this full moon, we finally see the full picture. So just as the moon reveals itself to us, it also shines a light on things that were previously hidden in our lives. So this can be kind of like this light bulb moment of, whoa, I see now, I see the light. These could be feelings we've buried, truths we haven't faced, realizations about our relationships or our careers. Under the light of a full moon, these shadows, right, what was once hidden or unable for us to fully see, even as the moon is growing in its light, we can still see the outline of the full moon. But it's not until it's all in the light that we can see the full picture. So under this light of the full moon, all these shadows come into focus, allowing us to see clearly, and often pushing and compelling us to take some sort of action, to act upon what we now see. Especially with this moon, because it is an Aries full moon, right? This is cardinal energy. This is Aries energy. If anyone is going to act on something, it's going to be Aries. And also, as a Mars ruled moon, we're feeling this need to really do something. We'll talk about why, but I would really advise that this action we take during this moon is much more internalized than or internalized first before we make a big decision or we do something or say something. But in general, things that have been building throughout the month, throughout the last 6 months, right? This moon is still a part of the eclipse cycle, even though it's not an eclipse, because we are having these eclipses on the Aries Libra axis. So this is our full moon culmination point from the Aries solar eclipse that happened 6 months ago, even though it's not an eclipse. So it's almost like we get this kind of pure Aries energy that's kind of unencumbered by any shocking or upsetting events that might have happened if it were an eclipse. But we're still in this understanding this cycle and this Libra Aries axis. So things that have been building for the last 6 months or over the past month can finally come to this kind of head or crossroads. And we're really going to be feeling crossroads energy with this moon because of this grand cardinal cross, which we'll talk about. So just for some context, we are in Libra season, and Aries full moon happens every year during Libra season. They are opposite each other, so they are sister signs. That Aries full moon comes as this kind of extreme opposite balancing moment for what we're experiencing during Libra season. It's coming at the end of Libra season, right? We're going to be moving into Scorpio season next week. So we've had a lot of reflection on these Libra energies, on this Libra journey that we've been through. Obviously, check your Libra house to understand more about how that's been showing up for you. But Libra season in general it's this point. We just finished Virgo season, which is the harvest season. Now we're coming to understand the relationships and the obligations that we have to others. Um, in sharing our harvest and in sharing our abundance and in sharing our efforts with one another. We've processed our harvest, we've started to store and can our foods, and now we're sharing and we're gifting and we're giving to one another. And so during Libra season around us, there's really this energy that's urging us to assess whether we're establishing fair exchanges of energy and resources in our connections. Are we sharing our harvest and our abundance properly? Are we honoring ourselves in this sharing? Are we honoring our obligations to others? Libra's sign is the sign of the scales, right? And so there's this idea of inner and outer balance here, that's very important in understanding. Am I honoring? Libra is air. It's our mental body, our thinking, our processing. Am I honoring what it is I think about and I want and I desire for myself? Uh, in relationship to what I owe others. And Libra can often compromise that kind of inner or outer desire or effort for the sake of peace or to make sure everyone around us is good, but at our own expense. So it's a great practice during Libra season and definitely during this full moon to ask ourselves where we might be out of alignment in this inner and outer balance with our internal needs, our emotions, and our desires, and how that relates to how we're presenting ourselves with others or how we're interacting with others. Think about close personal relationships, people that we're interacting with on a daily basis. Whether that's romantic, whether that's friendship, whether that's a business partnership, these are these close exchanges of energy and resources. And this season really wants us to assess whether we're giving out of genuine desire, whether we're giving out of genuine love, right? Or obligation. Do I feel like I owe this person this because I've made this promise to them, or we're in this contract, or we're in this relationship, but thinking really heavily about a job there. Like, do I owe them this? And whether we're open to receiving from others with gratitude. It's maybe the big point I'd like to drive home is like, can you receive as much as you can give? So this is happening on this Libra Aries axis. These two signs sit directly opposite each other on the zodiac wheel. And they form a natural complement to each other, right? Life is balancing itself through opposites. But they also have a bit of a tension because they're opposing each other. And so this tension is happening with the theme of individuality and relationship, the self, and what the self owes or should give to others. These ideas of autonomy and partnership, self assertion and cooperation. It's really this idea of me versus we, me versus us together. Understanding this axis offers us powerful insights into how we navigate the dynamic of me versus we in our lives. So, with this moon, Aries is telling us to take action. It's all about impulse and bold moves to start something new. Libra is also a cardinal sign, so it's also about starting something new. But Libra is more about reflection. We have fire and then we have air. So reaction versus reflection, weighing the options. Think about the scales there. Careful consideration of others. I want you to think about with Aries, it's the energy of the seed, of the birth. And the balance there is like, yes, I need to use all of my energy to figure out how I'm going to bust out of this seed and how I'm going to become this little sprout and start something new and become new life. But I also have to be mindful, and here's the balance: I have to be mindful of where I am. Am I near and in relationship to other plants that can help me grow and that can support me, and we can share nutrients because I produce this and they need this, and vice versa? Um, I have to be mindful of where I'm planting this new seed, of where I'm sprouting and trying to grow new life. That I don't harm other plants, that they don't harm me, that I'm getting what I need, but that I'm also in right relationship. So a balanced Aries energy knows when to assert independence without alienating others. And I think that's a really, really important gem of wisdom to drive home with this moon, because we're going to feel a lot of action and wanting to act and wanting to really act on the self and self preservation and self desires. But we don't want to burn bridges, right? We need to be in right relationship to everyone around us, even when we're acting from a place of self, even when we're acting for our own self desires or something that's self serving. We're never isolated, right? We are always impacting the world around us. So Aries knows how to act with courage, but also sensitivity. And that's where that Libra mindset comes in and where we want to incorporate that sensitivity to the impact of our actions and how they may impact others around us, and knowing that our sense of self is strong, but that doesn't keep us from being afraid or not wanting to connect and to collaborate with other people. So let's take a look at this chart for this moon, and why I've been talking about kind of a crossroads and this intense energy, where it's coming from. So we have a very strong opposition happening right here, right, which is the full moon, when the sun and the moon are at the same degree but opposite signs of each other. So we have Aries at the moon in Aries at 24 degrees. Then we have the sun in 24 degrees of Libra. So this is the strong opposition that's happening here between, on an axis of me versus we. Our relationships may really be highlighted during this time. It's not on this screenshot, but Chiron is also very close to this moon. It's conjunct the moon at, I believe, 21 degrees of Aries. So there's this idea that our emotions are being triggered, or our emotions are triggering our wounds, or our wounds are triggering our emotions. While there's this illuminating point on our moon, it's also illuminating Chiron in our wounds. And Chiron in Aries is really about the wounds of the self, of the wound of not being able to act in for the self, in understanding our identity, our assertiveness, of not feeling independent enough to go our own way. So this moon can be quite intense emotionally and can bring up some pain for us that ultimately we want to remember is for us to heal and for us to understand better, right? Not to fall victim to. And then down here, you'll see this square happening with Mars as well, who Mars is in Cancer right now at a critical degree of 22 degrees of Cancer. Mars is not happy in Cancer, right? He can't do his work there. He's in fall, which means he's falling out of this powerful position of the sky. Mars in Cancer can often, think about Mars being our action and our impulse to do and to act. And when it's in Cancer, it's kind of debilitated by our emotions and may have us feeling emotionally triggered and wanting to act from that place of defensiveness and sensitivity, and feeling like we need to protect ourselves, almost like we're being attacked emotionally. Um, Mars is also in his retrograde shadow right now. So he's just, our ability to act and do is kind of weakened right now. We want to remember that, especially because Mars is the ruler of Aries and of this moon. So we want to more internalize these feelings and think about how can I change myself first before I go out and decide to do something or decide to take action on this, because we want to be aware there's a lot of emotions that may be coming up, very sensitive. We may be feeling very sensitive, and we don't want to act out of character or get too defensive and aggressive because we feel threatened. We want to know that's coming up. Okay, what is this trying to tell me? What is this trying to teach me? And then directly, well, not directly opposite, this is kind of a loose opposition here with Mars is Pluto, who just went direct in Capricorn the past weekend. And you'll see that Pluto is also at a critical degree, at the anaretic degree, 29 degrees of Capricorn. And this is the huge closing of a chapter. Pluto is going to be officially leaving Capricorn as of November 19th and going into Aquarius for good. No more Pluto in Capricorn. So we're at this last degree. We're closing this story. Remember that Capricorn has to do with structure that creates boundaries in our life, but also allows us to create lasting impact and legacy. And, it has to do with the career because it has to do with legacy and money. These are the structures around which we build our lives. You can obviously check your Capricorn house for a little more personalized idea of the work that Pluto's been doing in that house since 2008. But this is this final push to close this chapter, to finish the job, to learn these lessons, to implement the changes of the lessons we've been learning for the past 19 years since 2008. So this is creating it's a loose cross, but you'll see this kind of square here in the sky between these four planets, and these are the cardinal planets, or sorry, these signs. These are the cardinal signs. So this is a moon that really, really wants us to take action. And at the same time, we are having all these emotional triggers come up with Chiron here. And also, Mars is not in a great place for us to take the best action, right? We might be acting from this defensive emotional place. This cross is, think of it like a four-way. It's almost like a stop. But there's not really it's a crossroads. It's like there's not really directions on like you should go this way or you should do this. So during this moon, we might feel like we've kind of hit this wall, and we have choices and options of which way to go, but maybe they all kind of feel equally weighed, in pros and cons, or maybe there's someone blocking our path. Maybe there's a way of thinking that's blocking our path. Maybe it's something we've been dealing with since 2008 in our Capricorn house. Maybe it's something that's coming up with Chiron, with our emotional wounds. Maybe it's something who we're in relationship to, who we're in partnership to. Something is coming up that's making us feel pause. Okay, this is tense, and this Mars energy wants us to protect ourselves and wants to get defensive and gets triggered very easily. So we want to take that pause that the universe is giving us to say, okay, hold on, how can I handle this? What have I learned from the past? How have I grown emotionally? How have I come to understand these wounds that I have? And how can I take a better choice? How can I make a better choice and take a better step forward for myself and for my future? This is a grand cardinal cross. So not only do we want to act, but we want to do something new. We want to start something new, right? The cardinal signs are the signs that usher in a new season: winter, spring, fall, summer. We want to start something totally new. We want to go a new way. But we're feeling blocked. We're feeling like there's an obstacle here, and it's good for us to understand and internalize that obstacle before we try to move it out of our way. So a grand cardinal cross occurs when 4 planets are occupying each of the 4 cardinal signs. You have both Chiron and the moon in Aries, Mars in Cancer, Sun in Libra, and Pluto in Capricorn. And this is creating this push and pull tension where we're compelled to take action in different areas of our life depending on what how those houses show up for you in the cardinal signs. But the energy can feel really overwhelming. We can feel scattered. We can feel triggered, like we don't really have a clear path forward or what is the right decision to make here. And there are some major themes coming up that I want to talk us through. This tension between self and relationship, right? That's coming up, emotional sensitivity and action, initiating or wanting to start something new, make a major change in our life, which is why I kind of talked about this moon being one of the bigger, more notable moons of 2024, because we do want to start something new and we do want to block out a new path for ourselves. But at the same time, we are feeling like a little stuck or unsure. There's a healing here of a really core wound of self and independence and selfhood. And at the same time, with Pluto, where we want to break free from these limiting structures that have maybe been holding us back for quite some time. So, this tension between the self and relationships is this maybe showing up as like an inner tension around how much of yourself you can really fully express while still maintaining peace and balance with other people, or how they're perceiving you, or depending on this where Aries and Libra axis shows up for you. You may be feeling this pull between your own desires, what you want to do and how you want to act, and the needs of the people in your life and how you're obligated to care for them and to give to them. And at the same time, we're feeling very emotionally sensitive and wanting to take action from that place. Mars in Cancer really struggles to act decisively, as decisively as Mars in Aries, for example, would really prefer, right? That's where Mars is at home. And so instead, our decisions are being clouded again by these personal needs, our emotional security and safety, feeling safe to express our emotions, and maybe even family matters, because Cancer has to do with our ancestors, with our family, with our emotional home. So this aspect can create a lot of frustration and the feeling that you want to move forward, you want to do something new, you want to start something new, you want to act on what you're feeling, but you're feeling pretty emotionally blocked, either by family ties or some sort of unresolved issues from the past that are holding you back. And again, it's just really great to kind of pause in that moment and try to understand why you're feeling that way rather than acting from that feeling, which can have us kind of acting out of character. Again, there's this initiation into major change. We want to do something new. So maybe it's great to just sort of think about what it is that we want to do new. What is this new path that we want to take? What is this new way that we want to go, or this new way we want to act or be perceived, or this new kind of relationship that we want to have with others, or new relationship with ourselves? Cardinal energy is all about new beginnings, new directions, and really taking charge and forging that new path for ourselves. So before we do that, because we know we're feeling emotionally sensitive during this moon and maybe a little bit triggered, maybe it's just good to think about, what is it that I want? How do I want to get there? And at the same time, we're breaking free from these limiting structures with this closing story of Pluto and Capricorn. And so there can also be this moment of reckoning with long-standing structures in your life, whether this is like these kind of external systems of authority, like a boss or a parent, in your career, or some sort of societal norm that's just really been holding you back. Internalized patterns of control from this idea of tradition, or how we've always done things, or how things should be done. Pluto is really pushing us all And this is for the next couple of weeks, right, until November 19th, to close the story. Close the story of questioning these structures that have been constricting your personal growth and really letting them go for good. Pluto is this higher octave of Mars. Mars is the traditional ruler over Pluto's signs of Scorpio. And, Scorpio and Pluto, they all have to do it with death, but that's also Mars. And so it's about taking this action about this cycle of life and death, the seed, and then the death that must occur in order for the seed to grow and start new life. It's like we have to kind of traverse through the underworld in order to begin again. And so Pluto is unearthing and excavating places in our life in this Capricorn house where there's power imbalances, where something has been restricting us, something has been, we've internalized some kind of pattern of control, whether that's, again, from societal norms or from our parents or traditions or government or money, or all these authoritative figures in our life have created these patterns of control over us. And we're breaking free from that. We're understanding how that's created this behind the scenes pattern of control, a subconscious control. And we want to start and do something new. We want to unearth the riches that come from taking back the control there. And then lastly is that this moon is conjunct Chiron. And Chiron is the wounded healer, right? And the sort of magic of Chiron is that he reminds us that our healing journey is a life journey. There's no end, which isn't meant to be discouraging. It's meant to help you find some joy in the journey of healing, that this isn't a project where you're just going to be finished and you're done now. You've healed everything. You're the healed version of yourself. You will always be healing. You will always be creating power and alchemizing power from your wounds, from your mistakes, from your past, learning more about what has held you back, what has restricted you, what has hurt you and harmed you in the past, so that you can alchemize that pain into power. And that's Chiron's story, right? He had this wound for his entire life that was incurable, that he had to learn to live with, and that he used to empower himself and empower others. So we can expect, again, this moon to be quite emotionally intense, to trigger some old wounds, especially related to identity, independence, and personal power. Again, you want to check your Aries house. If you're an Aries rising, then that's definitely this like really core wound of self and selfhood and how we're being perceived. So for more insight, you can check your Aries house to see how that wound is showing up for you. This full moon could reveal areas where you felt disempowered or unable to fully express yourself in the past. But I thought that the symbol for this moon was really beautiful. Or sorry, for Chiron, where Chiron is right now. And the symbol was a gate that opens to the garden of our desires. And so you can find yourself in really beautiful places with your desires having been met. And there can be the promise of happiness and stability and feeling like you've arrived where you want to be. At times, though, you may be right at the point of where you want, right? We're thinking about this crossroads again. You're kind of at this point, but you need to take deliberate action to open the gate. You need to admit to yourself what you want, where you want to be. Maybe you need to knock. Maybe you need to ring the doorbell. You need to take some sort of action. Make a decision at this crossroads. Or maybe you already have everything you need and you have to just look around. So there's this idea here with this Chiron symbol, just kind of reiterating or emphasizing this need to take action, but to take the right kind of action, right? In right relationship to the self and in right relationship to our wounds, and understanding our wounds and understanding what it is that we really want without the influence of others, but also being mindful of where we're at and what we need to do and how we should act in order to get where we need to be or where we want to be. And then it's quite interesting with the symbol for the moon and where the moon is at in Aries, at 24 degrees. And the symbol for 24 degrees of Aries is a double promise, reveals its inner and outer meanings. So there's this promise of like, you've arrived and your desires will be met. But then the moon symbol is showing that what it first appears to be may reveal itself to actually be something else. Simple promises can be more complicated than first thought. So again, there's this idea of like, we do need to take action and we're here and we've arrived, but it may be a little bit more difficult than we thought. We're at this crossroads, we're at this stalemate, that we're meeting this obstacle. It may be a little bit more than what we thought we needed to do. And there's importance and beauty in pausing and making sure that we make the right decision there. Our rational and emotional responses can be in conflict with one another, right? Which we already talked about with all of the emotion that's coming up around this moon. One wants something and the other wants something else. And I'm thinking of Mars in Cancer wants us to protect ourselves and defend ourselves and feel emotionally safe. And Aries wants us to be bold and do something courageous and do something new and really act for the self. However, this can be the way to really view things from this inner and outer perspective, so that we're bringing in this Libra context, we're bringing in this Libra wisdom, reminding ourselves that we're always in relationship, we're never isolated, we're always in relationship to the world and the people around us. And so this indicates the choice that arises of the heart and of social obligation. We're realizing the implications of expectations and promises we may have made. And so this is really interesting, I think, to think about, on a more personal level with where that Aries and Libra axis is showing up for you. If that's your 10th and fourth house, we're thinking about the promises that we've made for our career and for this outer world and how our legacy that we're leaving. And then what about the promises we made to ourselves and our own foundations and our own emotional safety and feelings and needs and wants? Are they in right relationship? Are they balanced with one another? Are we really making this decision that's best for both? Or that, if that's your first and seventh house, when it comes to our close personal relationships and who we are as people, is that in right relationship and balance with one another? So, at best, this moon can show us that there's a reward involved here, some promise is fulfilled, or that something looks really, really great on the outside, but it has a different meaning on the inside. And we're needing, again, to balance that inner and outer world, to look back to the pledges or promises or obligations that we made back in the spring or having to do with our Aries Libra axis. Are we fulfilling those? Is what we're in relationship, are they fulfilling that for us? Is everything balanced there? And in our in the shadow kind of expression of this moon, this can look like fickleness, insincerity, maybe seeing that someone promised us something and they weren't actually sincere, two-facedness in relationship, someone promising more than they can actually deliver, whether that's us or someone we're in relationship to, someone just not turning up, right? Not showing up, not acting, not doing the right thing, or having sort of a hidden agenda again, this illumination on these shadows that we hadn't seen before, or Pluto excavating all of these things from the depths. There's this idea of like something that was hidden about our relationships to me and we is exposed here. So as far as a ritual for this moon, I think it would be really great to work with fire, to really work on healing our fire energy, especially around Aries. So where the fire shows up in your Aries house could be really helpful. So think about working with candles. Maybe you want to light a fire. Um, thinking about lighting a candle in your space and really doing a visualization meditation, or just sitting with that fire, visualizing it as a source of strength, illuminating your path forward, giving you the courage to act, right? Fire is soul energy, right? It's the fire inside of us that never goes out, that just transfers form, that sparks new life. Um, we could also surround ourselves with objects or people, or even nature that feels really empowering. So maybe you want to work with some crystals. I suggested clear quartz for maybe some clarity around the decision that we have to make. Amethyst for some emotional balance, also opening our third eye, so that maybe we can get some intuitive clarity around this decision and this crossroads are coming to. Or maybe even black tourmaline if we're feeling a little triggered. We want to feel protected and safe. We want to draw some boundaries, which is important during Libra season to understand. Um, but just in general, surrounding ourselves with symbols of strength and healing, even, if that's like going to the water for you, if that's like having a bonfire with your friends, if that's, going and sitting under a big tree, whatever it is that helps you feel powerful and helps with some healing of the self and independence. Maybe it's even grabbing an image, or working with a goddess or a spirit that really represents personal empowerment to you. So maybe that's Lilith, grabbing a tarot card that you have of her and doing a ritual with that card present. Something like that, and closing your eyes and visualizing this like red fiery light, this fire that's inside of you, that soul fire, that spark of new beginnings, of new pathways forward, of new life, right? That Aries really represents the energy of that, the warrior, the leader, the seed, um, the fire, that moment of spark of not electricity, but lightning, like the lightning bolt of life that entered you at your first breath, when your soul met your body and your mind. And um, imagine this light, this fire filling you with courage and with strength and with determination to meet whatever this obstacle is, and to move forward and make the right decision for yourself. Um, I want you to remember that there's wisdom in failure, in fear, in whatever wounds are being triggered right now, in messing up or doing the wrong thing. Even if it is kind of having an emotional outburst or emotional trigger, there's still wisdom there for you. There's still something that experience is trying to teach you. And you're allowed to do something new. You're allowed to change your behavior. You're allowed to accept new wisdom, even if it's triggering, even if it comes from this difficult moment in your relationships or your career. Give yourself the permission to say, oh, I can change. I can do something new. I can start something new with all this cardinal energy. Um, as far as herbs, I think yarrow is a really, really beautiful herbal companion for this moon. Yarrow is known as the warrior plant. It's a healer for, you can stop bleeding with yarrow. You can bring fevers down. So we think about the blood and fire. Yarrow is really great for working with that. Yarrow is known to create a healing, protective bubble of energy around the body. So there's several ways we can work with yarrow. We can burn yarrow leaves as incense for protection during a ritual on this moon, or just in general this week, whenever you're kind of feeling triggered, we can ask for some protection and some strength and courage from the warrior plant. We can drink some yarrow tea before or after our rituals, or before or after this moon during this week, to strengthen our emotional boundaries, our energetic boundaries. Or you can even take some flower essence from yarrow, or you could infuse yarrow in some oil and add it to your bath or your ritual water, or even just rub on your palms or your wrists to give you some strength and to really channel the energy of this beautiful Aries Mars herbal companion. Um, so, yes, I hope that was helpful. I hope that gave you some insight and clarity into this week, which might be intense and might be bringing up some conflict in either internally or externally, or maybe both. If you would like more insight on how this moon is going to show up personally for you, I do have horoscopes for each sign in my newsletter. So you can sign up for the newsletter. It's free at the website. It's www.aquamooncosmos.com. And you can always feel free to reach out to me, and we can schedule a reading, or we can have a chat about how this moon is showing up for you. But I hope overall that this provided some clarity and some insight and some comfort into one of these very powerful moons of 2024.